into that, and I found out a few things.
Hmm.
So, okay, we're live now, so I can also explain. So let's start from the simple one. Basically, last week I created an MR to add the countable connection to the to-dos GraphQL type, so that we can also get the number of to-dos all other than just the list of to-dos for each page. And while writing the specs, I noticed something strange, like I can show you. Let me share my screen.
While you're getting that up, it's interesting though, because I think I noticed recently that when you look at issues, the issues list, you don't have like page numbers and that on anymore. I don't think it just has like next and previous. Like the way pagination works is quite strange now. I don't know if you'd noticed that or not.
Not really. But yeah, so going back to the spec that started it all. So there's this spec testing the GraphQL endpoint to get the list of to-dos for the current user. And I added a spec to make sure that the count of the count field was returned with the value that I was thinking it should have been right.
Cool.
So on the spec, they're setting up a bunch of to-dos, like 5 to-dos. I added one. And out of those 5 to-dos, 4 are public, like the user has access to those. And one should not, because it's from a project on a project that the current user doesn't have access to. For example, you get pinged on an issue on a private project that you were part of, and then you are not part of the project anymore, so you cannot really see that to do anymore. So looking at the to-dos that they were setting up, I thought, okay, we have 5 to-dos, but only 4 are visible. Let's write the spec so that we expect 4 to-dos to be returned on the count. But no, it was returning 5 to-dos.
I was going to say I'd write expect 5.
I no, because I had a look and I wanted to make sure that it was it was right. Um, Also, because if you move the count field to the generic query that basically change this query to also return a count, so you get both the nodes and the count. On the nodes, you will get an array of 4 elements, but count would return 5.
Yep.
So
Yep.
was another good indicator. So I started digging deeper, and it turns out that the to-dos resolver is using the to-dos finder, go figure. And the to-dos finder is not filtering the to-dos by the authorization. So the finder is returning all the to-dos that basically they are associated with the current user.
Which is kind of standard practice, though, right? Although I know you're going to dig more detail, but generally speaking, you don't check the authorization at the
Not really.
finder level because it's an expensive operation, right?
Not really, because uh, a lot of finders inside they do include the authorization, but you can maybe turn it on or off, because
Okay.
the same thing, the same issue, you would have it for the issues finder, merge request finder, and stuff like that. And they do provide the option to filter by access level, basically. So the question was why the to-dos are getting filtered on the nodes, so on the collection, but the count is wrong. Because the only thing that I did was adding the connection type, and the connection type is on the to-do, and that's the straight base type countable connection type.
Mm-hmm.
And the to-do type also has the authorize, so they are authorized for the read to-do permission. And this is where things get tricky, basically. So this authorize kicks in after the resolver has done its job. Basically, it's the GraphQL.
It's when it's presenting, right? Essentially.
Exactly. So the resolver returns the whole list of items that they may or may not have been checked for authorization. And then the presenter does basically another round of authorization checks as I described it, and I was confirmed it's like that way. This is basically a last line of defense. Like if something's slips through the finder of the or the resolver or stuff like that, the presenter will still prevent the thing that you should not be able to see to get returned, basically. But this is happening after the resolver has done its job. And in this case, the countable connection type has been resolved. So basically, we have the whole set of 5 to-dos. The countable connection type runs on that set. So it has 5 to-dos. But then the presenter audits that one to do that we should not be seeing. So we have the wrong number, but the right set returned to the user. So this is how that works under the hood. I had a look at how to fix this. So basically, there is a way to run basically filter the set returned by the finder to only get the to-dos that the user really has access to. But that's, first of all, expensive because it has to do a bunch of queries, checking the access
projects
level.
and groups and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, that's madness because a to-do can come from project, from a group, from an issue, from a note that's internal. And you have multiple ways that basically it's too expensive. And if that wasn't enough, this service that's already existing, that's used to filter the to-dos on the currently existing to-dos page, is somewhere it's calling Italy. So that's basically even worse because I had to make this change work. I also had to tweak the user interface type to tell it that the to-dos field called Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's a no-no because it would be too expensive.
Yeah.
At the same time, all of the other discussion that you also saw on Slack came up with basically we have the wrong number of to-dos and stuff like that. So we started digging deeper, and we have created actually Jeff. Where is it? Almost there. Okay. This is another issue, but I think this is the not the issue, the EMR that's changing how the to-do count is being computed to solve the issue that they were discussing on Slack. And almost there. Okay, this is the issue that was created. Basically, what they're thinking about is adding a new field to the to-do. Basically, it's a Boolean value to tell it whether or not the user whether or not the to-do should be visible to the user it's assigned to. And we have 2 proposals on how to update that field. Basically, one option is to have a background service running every hour, every 30 minutes to basically use the allowed target filter service, which is the one that's already existing, to evaluate whether or not the user should be able to see the to-do or not. And the other way is find all the places that could make that change. For example, the ban service, unban service, update issue, update project access level or stuff like that. That basically changes how the user should be able to see the to-do and make that change this new hidden field. This is still under discussion, but basically,
I don't really like the idea of solving this problem specifically, though, because this is absolutely no help whatsoever to every other problem that's the same. Like this one's unique because to-dos are assigned to a single user.
yeah.
But like when you're talking about merge requests or issues or time logs or anything else, this solution's just of zero help. So I don't really like the idea of solving this problem specifically. It seems a waste to just be like, oh, well, let's solve this problem, but that doesn't help of any of the other 100 instances.
Yeah, the best solution, in my opinion, would be to basically do the authorization check before running the, for example, the count and stuff like that, so that you have the filtered set and you act on that. Because not only
because of the expensiveness, whatever the word, the cost, let's call it the cost. How do we avoid or how do we solve that?
I don't know. That's probably why they're thinking about using these hidden fields, because issues and MRs, like you mentioned, they do they have this filter on the Finder itself. So,
but is that because it's a bit more simple because it's you either have access to
probably,
the project, but you still have to like do the cascading hierarchy, right? Where you have to check, oh, have they got permission on the project or its parent or its parent's parent or its parent's parent's parent, etc.
yes,
But
but that,
that's not overly, we do that in a lot of places. So I guess that's been optimized.
yeah,
But
and also I think, I'm not really sure, but I think that the access level to a project is cached, so you don't always have to traverse all the hierarchy.
possibly. But
Uh,
where did you, because you've been having this conversation for time logs as well, right? So have we sort of got anywhere in terms of coming up with actually, I remember we had that call the other evening, so we sort of made a bit of progress, but remind me what the sort of conversation where it led for that.
for the time logs, we ended up thinking about restricting the items anyway. For example, in that case, a user can fetch time logs only from groups or project that they at least have the reported access level.
Got it. So we're basically using the permission from the projects.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything else. Whereas something like a no could also be in turn. So there's other objects that have got slightly higher increased level of complexity, or
I cannot think of any.
yeah, what else might you be?
I mean, to-dos and time logs are pretty much the same level of complexity because they pretty much can come from the same set of elements from issues, merge request, and then the to-dos that they also have another bunch of stuff that they can be generated from.
Trying to think of other things that you sort of, like jobs, pipelines. What other things might you
I
be
think
sort of?
those things are all checked against the access level that you have to the project. And that's,
So there's very few things that have additional complexities.
yeah, because pipelines, they cannot be internal, jobs neither, and all of those things, they are directly connected to the project.
Project.
and you can see them if you're at least developer or maintainer. Basically, it's based on the access level that you have to the project. You don't have the situation of, okay, you have a public project with an internal issue, or you have a public project with a public issue, but with an internal node that you weren't pinged on, but you're not part of the project. So that's the kind of complexity that we're dealing with for to-dos. So it's kind of not really unique to to-dos because we also have time logs, but I cannot really think about other situations that we have to face this.
Do you know what we do with events?
What events?
So, if you go to activity, like a project's activity or a group's activity, because that includes lots of different things, I think. So, yeah, go to activity for the GitLab project. I guess it's under manage. But we love the way we split out our menu options. I think it's under manage.
Manage activity. Okay.
So, here you've got comments, you've got merge requests, you've got branch, push to branch, you've got you've got a lot of different objects up, but there's no count, I guess. And if you scroll down, I think it's an infinite pagination thing.
Yep.
So maybe we just get around it by just checking on as we render, as we present.
Yes, that's one thing that could be saving us.
But I think you have the same problem on this page. Like if you were in a weird situation, I can't think what it'd be, but let's say that I posted 50 internal comments on the GitLab project. I think if someone then came to this page that wasn't a member of the project, I think it might be blank because it would go and fetch the first 20 or however many it's trying to get. And then at present time, it would realize you haven't got access. So it would render none. And then it would get a bit sort of choked at that point.
Yeah, because the other thing is not only the count field is wrong, but the pagination info is also wrong. Because the pagination info is another field that's computed after the resolver, but before the presenter.
Yeah. So you might, page through like 5 empty pages and then finally get to a page where you can see one record or
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Well, this isn't very helpful, is it?
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like trying to solve it for good, it would mean basically to have all the finders return the filtered list.
So yeah, but it's the expense of that operation. I mean, that I guess would be the only sort of, I don't know, foolproof, fail-safe, whatever you want to call it, solution. I wonder if we could. So with to-dos, I feel like that, as I say, they are unique, and I don't really want to just solve that problem. But maybe when we're doing the authorization check, I wonder if we could actually update the to-dos at that point, if that makes sense. So imagine if you hit the GraphQL endpoint and say, give me my to-dos and the count of to-dos.
Yeah.
The first time you do it, it will maybe say you've got 16 to-dos, but then it only renders 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But then each time it tries to render one, when it checks, am I allowed to render? If the answer is no, then it deletes the to-do or marks it as hidden or whatever the sort of correct approach would be. So yeah, fine, it's wrong the first time, but at least as soon as it realizes, hey, hang on a minute, this to do shouldn't exist because you shouldn't have access to it, then it destroys it at that point? Or
No, to-dos are not destroyed anyway.
they're just marked as hidden or done, are they?
Yeah, and I think they are discussing something, but I'm not really sure on what to do in certain situations. Uh,
I mean, because the other thing is ultimately, if you've got an email with the to do, regardless of whether if you got access to the project, you've got an email with the to do anyway. So are we sort of doing something that's a bit pointless by hiding them if like if we're doing it from a sort of security point of view, oh, we shouldn't show them this to do because they've no longer got access to the project, but actually they've already got an email with the note or the issue or the whatever it is anyway.
True. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's way too complex to decide. I mean, like you said, I got a to-do, so I got an email. I don't see the to-do because now I don't have access to that anymore, but I still have the email. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, man.
But feel free to add any notes to this issue. I'm gonna send the link.
Yeah. Drop it maybe in Discord.
Yeah,
Um,
Discord.
um,
I will find Discord and
yeah.
it's here.
Like you say, I just don't see how you can do it and it be performant.
I don't know. The the easiest way is to just have the hidden field like they're discussing here and update that field when needed or every X amount of time.
So we clearly have this problem even on things that are directly attached to like groups and projects. Try this for me quickly. Go to GitLab.org.
The group,
Yeah. And go to issues.
that this out of the way, issues.
Hopefully you'll see the same behavior as me. And be patient. And eventually it will basically say, I timed out. Oh, no, yours actually worked. So I got an error that the counts never came up at the top. It basically said it timed out retrieving the counts. So, and then if you scroll to the bottom, like I mentioned before, the pagination is woolly, airy fairy, whatever you want to call it, right? We don't indicate how many records there are. We just or how far through you are. We just give you a back and forward button.
Yes.
So again, it's one of those where like how much does it matter? Like
if you go to the next page of issues, what does the URL update to? Does it say like page 2 or something?
Yes, no, it's using the cursor.
It's what, sorry?
It's
it
using
puts the cursor in there. So it means like if you were to copy and paste that in theory, it would go back to exactly the same page.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether a new issue has been created or not. I don't know how well that works in practice, but I can't remember how those cursors are generated. It's something like the query params plus the ID of the record, the last or first record on the page, or something like that. I don't know.
Wait, where are you getting that?
So go back to the next page, Marco.
Oh, you're on groups. Yeah,
Right.
hang on. What am I on? Oh, I'm on the main GitLab project
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I don't get.
Page after.
Oh, I've got page after MJA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are
Why
we
is mine
live?
only 3 letters? NDA.
Are we live now or
We should.
recording?
Yes,
Should be. Yeah.
live
Okay.
and recording, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
But do you see where I'm going with the let's do it on demand approach, if that makes sense, Marco? Like where I'm sort of saying, well, trying to do I don't think there was anything too scary come up.
Okay.
Trying to do I don't know now. Yeah, trying to do everything in the Finder is going to be really slow. If let's say you've got 1,000 to dos, or 1,000 to dos, but if you get the records back from the Finder, you paginate, and then you come to present them. And when you're presenting them, you handle it at that point, if that makes sense. So
That could fix the pagination, but not the count.
well, I don't think it will. It depends how you look at it. So let's go with the 1,000 route. Okay, so you've got 1,000 to dos, and fair enough, that number might be out by 10 or something like that. But who really cares if you've got 1,000 to dos? Nobody cares that the number's out by 10. But if the first page that renders is missing, one of those 10 that's incorrect is on that first page, again, it just doesn't really matter. But what will happen is the first time that you access that page, it just gets those 19 records because of the incorrect pagination. But as it's presenting them, it goes through each one, does the auth check, and at that point it says, hey, you don't have access to this. And rather than just not rendering it, could we do something to that record, i.e. if hidden is the solution for to-dos? I know this doesn't scale or work for any other Finder, or not Finder, but problem, but
Yeah. So basically, after the Finder has returned the list of to-dos complete, so also the to-dos that you cannot see, then while building the page, you find, okay, I can see this, I can see this, I cannot see this, okay, remove it, but load the next one.
So yes and no. I don't think we should, because if we're genericizing this, like to time logs, if we're saying just skip it but take the next one, and therefore fix all the pagination and fix the counts and everything, then no, I don't think we should do that, because in the instance of time logs, there's tens of thousands of them. So we've come up with a different solution for that, to just make some high level sort of assumptions. That's not quite the right term, but I'm actually thinking that still only, so go back, get the records from the Finder, paginate. So still paginate on the basis that we assume we've got access to the first 20 or however many it is.
Okay.
But then when we start rendering or going through them, basically when we're ready to render them, at that point, if hidden is the way that we're marking to do, so does hidden already exist?
Nope.
It doesn't. So how do we currently handle a to do that you?
From the GraphQL side, the presenter checks the read to do authorization.
So it'll just remain forever. I didn't think that was the case, but maybe it does. Yeah, so if somebody gets it to do on a project that they've no longer got access to, they cannot. Yeah, that's always going to be a problem. Interesting. Why would we not delete the to-do?
I don't know. Probably because you can gain access to the project afterwards, and you would.
Yes, I think that discussion did happen on the issue or MR that you tagged me on actually. Yeah, we queue something. Maybe we queue the deletion. I'm sure I saw somewhere something about queuing, and the reason we queue it is to allow, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, undo it, and it doesn't. Maybe we do delete. Maybe we do delete them.
But not for pending. Like, I mean, not all the to-dos, only the to-dos that you cannot access anymore.
Yes, because you can always see on your to-dos page the ones that you've done, right? That's part of the functionality. Yeah, so that's going to be a problem if we were to delete them. Regardless of whether we delete them or mark them as hidden, I don't then understand how you then undo that operation.
Because if you do that on, well, either if you do that on a background service or you do that on the actual service that causes that hidden value to change, you basically take, for example, the internal note on a project that you have access to. So you get a ping and you get a to-do. You lose access to that project. So the service runs and checks, and okay, you cannot see this anymore. Set the hidden to true. Then someone adds you back to the project. The next round, the service, all the checks pass, so hidden comes back to false.
I guess we already do this, right? But it just seems insane to me because there's so many different ways that you might lose or gain access, if that makes sense.
That's why, of the two proposals, the background service is probably the easiest one, because the already existing allowed, what's it called? Allowed target filter service that basically ticks all the boxes, whether or not you can see a to-do or not.
But that, are you saying if we had a background service, say that would literally process every single to-do, like billions of to-dos, just double checking that people still have access to the resources?
Yeah. I don't know.
Just not scalable, is it?
It depends on how big the server is.
Well, that's again like maybe the route that I was heading wasn't as crazy, like, but maybe not quite as far down the line as I was suggesting. So rather than going to the Finder, getting all the records, paginating them, and then checking each time you go to present one, maybe it's the what's the word I'm looking for? The going to your to-dos page is basically the trigger for saying, right, I'm going to go through this person's to-dos and reauth them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that could be an option. And that
we'd need to timestamp something so we don't, like, if somebody goes back and forward to our to-dos like 5 times in 5 minutes, we don't want to keep doing it over and over. But if we
Yeah.
sort of said you go to your to-dos page, and if we haven't reauth'd your to-dos in the last hour, then we'll go through and do it again or something like that.
Yeah, that could be, for example, when you use the to-dos finder to, because it's not only the GraphQL endpoint that has this issue. It's all the places where you use the to-do finder that it could return a number of to-dos that it's not the right number, for example. So the finder could schedule an update, basically schedule the update to happen in the next 5 minutes, so that everything you do in those 5 minutes, you can reload the page and stuff like that. You don't trigger another update. And when the time has elapsed, the service starts to update only your to-dos. So it doesn't have to process billions of to-dos, but only the ones from your user.
Yeah. I mean, still, if you're a person who doesn't clear down your to-dos, then you could, I guess, have tens of thousands or a lot. And I'm not sure what it should do in. Maybe it just doesn't bother if you've got more than a certain number, or it only processes the recent or the oldest or newest ones or something like that. But I know a lot of our pages, they start rounding up anyway or down, don't they? When like merge requests for the GitLab project just says 2000 now. So I guess that's not down to the nearest one, right?
Yeah. But yeah, triggering the update of the field that way is probably better than going over billions of to-dos every hour.
Yes.
Totally true. I agree with that.
It's an idea though, right? But I tend to think like how many people have been involved on that issue on that thread, and like surely somebody must be able to come up with a silver bullet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this having the service to update a hidden field is probably the solution. Deciding when and how to run that service, that's probably the next question, and your is one of the answers.
Assuming that the hidden field is actually the right solution.
Assuming that, yeah.
It's definitely one of the few ways that I can think of that would allow, oh, you've got access back to the project or the group or whatever, so let's unhide. Assuming that's the idea that it does both ways, right? It's not just to redact to hide stuff that's not hidden, it's also to unhide stuff that is.
Yeah. That's why
pitch it, see what people think. But yeah, I still think there's going to be this similar problem for other. We were struggling to come up with ones that had that level of complexity, I guess. But
yeah, and I think
do you want to have a quick look at activity that we were looking at? I think they're called events.
yeah, events. What is this using? I think GraphQL. No, it's not using GraphQL. It's using a REST API to get the activity list.
But what we said about this one is we think that it's probably not a problem because we've got no counts and it's that infinite scroll. So you don't know if it's pulling back 1 record, 10 records, 15 records. It doesn't really matter, right? So they basically got rid of that problem by...
Labels are bugged.
Is it because they're missing the outline?
Yep.
Do you want to hit that API or look at the API response quickly just to see if you actually get the same number of records as it's requesting? Although you've got access to this project, right? So you're likely to be able to see all activity. It might
Yeah,
be
which is
better if
kind of
go on.
scary. Yeah,
But
it's kind
if you
so
were to maybe copy that URL for that API request and do it in an incognito browser, I wonder if it actually would return
good idea.
20 records.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Oh, wow.
Oh, is it one of these internal APIs?
I don't know because it's loading, but only some. Or maybe no, wait.
Was
Probably
that was
that
the endpoint though, right?
yeah, that was probably not what it was expected. No, I cannot load it.
Yeah, and I reckon that is it. I reckon that's the problem that I said. I reckon it's because it doesn't think you've got to the bottom of the list because
Yeah,
of the pagination issue.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Yes, there's one missing, I reckon. So it thinks you're not the bottom of the list, and therefore it's not serving you the next page. Could you actually run the API query? Like I missed. Oh yeah, you could just look at the response to that, right? Or
So
is
count 19.
yeah.
So the count is right because the count is 19. I see 19, but it's not loading on scroll. Maybe it's this page that it's not loading for an authenticated user.
Oh, you think that the scroll feature might just be disabled for
Yeah.
unless you're logged in? Can you go to page two?
It did scroll.
Oh, how did you get it scroll?
Oh, I think it's not checking whether or not you scrolled. Oh, we should have a look at this page. Because as soon as I had 20, because the first query returned 20, then I scrolling down, it allowed me to load other 20. And this one
Yeah,
19. So
yeah.
it's reaching the limit and it's not loading anymore.
That's
If
exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, that's pretty much how I thought it was behaving. So
we
yeah,
have,
exactly the same problem exists here, but it's just kind of a bit less visible.
well, not really because you cannot scroll anymore. So it's not loading.
True.
So this, I think it could be fixed on the front end side by checking
Yeah,
whether,
just making the observer
yeah, you are at the
work a
end.
bit differently.
Yeah, you're at the end of the page. Okay, load more. Who cares about?
How many records?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So going back to my MR, the solution that to unblock the MR because blocking the MR only because the count is not right and we don't have the right count anyway.
Yeah.
It is not really worth it. So I suggested, okay, let's make this clear in the code, leave a comment and point to the new issue and just basically remove the changes that I made to use the allowed target filter service because that makes it work, but it's not something that we can have in production.
Just performance wise, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And basically, okay, we have the endpoint. It's returning sometimes not the wrong number, but at least we have the endpoint. And that's what that was agreed. So that's the next thing I'm going to do to unblock this one.
Cool. Cool. Seems sensible.
Yeah. And I guess we're at time now, so don't really want to dig deeper into this one because it's probably worse.
Excuse me.
So yeah, I'm having fun with GraphQL endpoints and pagination and counting.
Oh, don't worry, I'm having just as much fun with Capybara and GraphQL and flaky specs and who knows what else.
Yeah, but you know when you buy a new car and all of a sudden everyone has your car. I started looking at time logs and it wasn't paginating correctly, and all of a sudden all the pagination is wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely something I think to try and see if you can persuade people to escalate a little bit, because it seems like a real fundamental thing.
We will have to escalate this because the work that's going to start for the notification system, that's this is a basic requirement, because if we cannot paginate correctly, I don't worry about the count, but having the page info correct is kind of.
Do you know what? I think this is a bigger problem than you realize as well, because I think it does impact things as simple as like issues as well. Because if you think about issue, you can view an issue if you're assigned to it and it's confidential, and there's a whole bunch of other criteria as well, right? So I, I I'm sure that even like an issue, the issue finder or whatever you want to call it, the issues GraphQL API and REST API and stuff must have the same challenges, that it's not easy to grab a count or do all the auth checks prior to presenting.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the issue finder, and filter items by confidential.
Okay.
And this has the confidentiality filter.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is basically building a query
Okay.
to filter the items. So that check is done by
Oh, so we do. Okay. Okay.
but and I honestly think that for to-dos at least, the allowed target filter service could be something that could be used by the finder. But the problem is that Gitali thingy that's going to cause probably a good amount of workload on the server for some reason. And also,
I guess maybe digging more into why it needs Gitali, because we don't. Oh, I guess that's because some of the to-do show when you like push a new branch and stuff like that, or
probably, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this filter, it filters confidential only, public only, if the current user is blank or confidential is false. Returns, basically, it's saving the filter as a last resort. And yeah, this is, you know what, this is something that you can build with a query, because filtering by issues that are public, that are confidential, that are created by you or that are assigned to you, and that you have access to the project, that's something that you can build with a query.
I guess so. But no, it's not going to be the simplest of queries, is it? It's going to be a reasonably complex, sort of nested.
Yes, but I think that's something more accepted than the current allowed filter target service.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because like you say, it's because of the polymorphism or whatever you want to call it. The to-dos can be associated with so many different types. So
yeah, that's
cool.
not something that you can build with a query because you have a lot of different cases.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I sent the issue link on Discord if someone wants to add any note. I will leave.
Sharing.
Yeah, I'll leave the feedback about or if you want to do it for on when to trigger the service instead of running that every hour and running it.
Yeah,
over.
pop it on there and tag me as the guilty party for having suggested it as an idea, and we'll see what the thoughts are. But it's an insane problem, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Have a great day, everyone.
You as well.
Catch you later.